Welcome to our third day here at Goodwood House in Sussex with the new seniors Pot Black. Now today, one of our players is a man who was making so many of the headlines back in the 1970s. Pot Black itself, World Championship runner-up, Masters champion, the South African player, Perrie Mans. And he's playing the only man in the seniors event never to have taken part in the original Pot Black. That's Joe Johnson. And these two, you know, they're quite different characters.
Hi, you remember me? I'm Perrie Mans from South Africa.
Perrie Mans was an outstanding single ball potter and a very tough competitor indeed, as you have to be to get to a world final, and he got to the world final in 1978.
Well, I've never experienced anything like this. You know, the tension is terrible, you know.
I wish him well, but he'll have to sharpen his game up if he's going to bring weight in here.
I remember the final very well, you know, because I was leading Ray Reardon at the time, 1817, and that was my job. And in every single frame I was like 50, 60 points in front, and he beat me every time. He beat me 24, 18. I remember the one shot that I played in that final. They showed it like 10 years after that final, they still kept on showing it. Called it like the best shot ever on television, yeah. Reardon had me in so much trouble. I just had to go for something.
Oh, what a brilliant shot. That surely must be the shot of the championships.
But success came the following year in the Masters. Perrie, believe it or not, didn't want to play in it, as his first-round opponent remembers.
Perrie said, Cliff, I said, what am I going to do? I said, well, what, why? He said, well, I booked a ticket and I'm supposed to go tomorrow. And I said, well, you know, I mean, if you win, Perrie, well, then you're going to have to stay. He says, no, I don't want to stay, I want to go home.
So he was under the impression that he's going to beat me, you know.
He has to clear up, you see, to beat me. And he flukes the green, you know, so I think, okay, well, that's okay. Then he makes a great pot on the brown, and I'm going, okay, well, when are you going to miss the ball? So he pots the blue, and then he's got the pink straight in, right? So now I'm thinking, well, you know, Perrie, if you miss this ball, right, it's going to look so bad on TV. And of course he rolls it in, and he leaves himself, you know, sort of like a tricky black, and of course, you know, like I know that he's going to miss this, you see, and he just thumps it right in.
Don't know what happened, but I beat him, and then I had to stay on, and then I booked a flight for the next day. And I went right through that tournament, playing Higgins in the final and beating Higgins as well in the final.
Despite being desperate to get home to South Africa, Perrie ended up winning his only major trophy, apart from his win in the 1977 Pot Black.
Match is conceded, and finally it is success to the South African champion, who takes victory at 8 frames to 4.
The 70s and 80s were definitely like the best days of my snooker experiences. That's why I'm here today. I come here just to meet my friends from the 70s, you know.
A man from Bradford who hated the television lights. He seems to like them now. Joe Johnson, champion of the world. The biggest moment in the career of Joe Johnson stands out in the snooker record books. The '86 World Championship, one of the biggest upsets in the history of the sport.
Everybody in the nation was surprised, and I was as well.
But it didn't come as a surprise to Joe's #1 fan, his mum, who tried to talk him out of taking up the game.
He didn't seem to have any other interest. I used to say, why don't you go ice skating? Why don't you go to pictures? Why don't you get a girl?
Well, instead, he got a place in the 1986 World Quarterfinals and a place against the surprise '79 champion, Terry Griffiths.
When we met for the final session, Terry had a terrific opening 5 frames to lead 12-7, so I just thought I was out then, because I'd never beaten Terry.
lovely effort by Joe.
So I'm 12-9 down, and I thought, well, I'm going to have a go now, you know, and just let my arm go.
And he certainly let it go. The last 4 frames in just 54 minutes, with a couple of centuries as the icing on the cake.
110. And surely Terry will offer his hand of congratulation.
But in the final, he faced the prospect of millions watching him take on 3 times champion, outstanding #1, Steve Davis.
I always thought that Steve would beat me because he was #1. He'd been 3 or 4 times world champion. You know, he was the best. So I was just delighted to be competing with him. You know, I didn't want to get murdered type of thing. Even when I was 17-12 up on the second day, only needing 1 frame, I always thought, well, he's going to start playing well now and he's going to come back at me.
Enjoying every moment of it. The crowd here at the Crucible are going mad for Bradford's Joe Johnson. The most remarkable world final I've ever seen.
The outsider at the start, 150-1. The champion at the finish.
All I could think about was getting back to Mali to see all the people. And when I eventually did get back, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I thought, well, everybody's gone home now, you know. I'm going down the road and there's cars parked everywhere, television cameras. The police were there, and the police chief said to me, yeah, it's okay, it's open all night, you know. It was just a terrific night.
Well, just as well he's got a proper job. Back to the reality of Pot Black and first rounder #3, Joe Johnson versus Perrie Mans.
I have to eat the Red Bulls first, right?
I think so, yes.
Perrie Mans retired from the circuit in 1990, although he's still involved in the snooker trade back in South Africa. But in his prime, which was towards the end of the 70s, he was a truly outstanding single ball potter. World runner-up 1978, winner of the Masters in 79.
Yes, Clive, we used to call him back in those days Perrie the Third. My word, he did hit the balls hard. Terrific left-handed potter. It's a delight to see him back in this country. He was last here 11 years ago.
Joe Johnson, 1986 world champion, and despite many vicissitudes in terms of health, he's still a very serious competitor. 47th in the world rankings he stands. He suffered one extremely serious heart attack which almost cost him his life, and he's had a few minor ones insofar as they're ever minor.
Safety shot, eh?
Well, the safety shot was from Johnson. Mons completely misjudged his reply. It's not a straightforward run to position.
One.
And having Callan that second red, he may be tempted to attempt the black and get it back on its spot.
Now he's going for the easier blue. I'm sure you'll all remember the fairy tale. story of Joe Johnson in 1986 when he just strolled through the World Championship to take the title.
Joe Johnson, 6.
Well, he'll be a little disappointed with that.
Foul, Joe Johnson, 4.
And that was a very awkward shot that Mans had to play.
Yes, he did.
Particularly when you're so short of match practice. I think this one is a bit more up his street.
Surely she's not praying.
One.
Perrie looks very good for a 52-year-old. Turned professional way back in 1961. There's a terrific putt.
6. Perrie Mans, 6. One.
Joe Johnson these days devotes a lot of his time to helping young Paul Hunter, that outstanding young prospect from Leeds. And Joe is a snooker man through and through. After one or other of his heart attacks, he did have the option to retire and cash in his pension, but he just couldn't bear the thought of not playing anymore, so he decided to go on and take the risk.
Joe Johnson, 8.
Joe, one of the younger players in the senior tournament, 44 years of age.
And of course, his father, Peter Mans, was a very fine professional, a world quarter-finalist back in the 50s.
Yes, Clive, I remember that so well. I was then in charge at Leicester Square Hall,
6.
London, and brought Peter Mans, his father's name was, across from South Africa. And from Canada, George Chenier. A number of viewers, I'm sure, will remember that famous name. The two
7.
famous names of overseas stars, completed by Horace Lindrum from Australia, of course.
$14. $15.
Perrie himself is a family man. He has 3 children.
Perrie Mans, 50.
Well, that's what happens if you're out of match practice. It's perfectly easy, but his mind strayed off it. So, terrible miss. Wouldn't have missed that one 10 years ago.
Well, there's a good shot there of the plant, and he's pushed the pink on. Good opportunity here. The Reds are lying rather nicely, and the audience thoroughly enjoying these older stars. I'm sure they won't mind me saying that. Great personalities.
$7. 8.
Not run far enough for the black, but he's got the pink.
$14. $50.
Queuing rather nicely, Clive.
Well, he is a regular competitor, still practices a lot. In fact, he said the other day that he felt that at times he was playing as well
20.
as he did in the years when he won the World Championship and got to the final the following year. He said the trouble is that everyone else is playing better.
21.
Might have overrun that a fraction.
There was a time in his life when he led a pop group, I remember.
Yes, it was called Made in Japan, and Joe was the lead singer. Rather good he was as well.
Joe Johnson, 21.
Had to swerve slightly to make the potting angle for the black. So for the moment has to be content with an 18-point lead against those who haven't competed for several years, but it's only one frame and things could go wrong.
You had a lovely camera shot just there of Perrie Mans attempting that red into the centre pocket, looking over the left shoulder. As Clive said, he's busy today, is Perrie, covering the whole of South Africa with the selling of accessories to the game. And he's got one left here, an accessory for him. Pick up the 18 points he's adrift at the moment.
One.
Got to be careful not to foul the black here.
Perrie Mans, 1.
Well, his body wasn't down properly. He knows he should have got the rest, really.
Yes, that's what happens in old age, I find, Clive. You get a little lazy.
One.
Yes, the body isn't quite as flexible either.
All the way round the
George
pocket,
Johnson.
but not in it.
Well, Johnson's giving him plenty of chances.
One.
No, he's tempted to lean out right across the table to have a go at the black. And
John Williams, the referee, as he was in the latter days of Pot Black when it was recorded at Pebble Mill in Birmingham.
yes, John took over from the late Sidney Lee, the famous old billiards player who for a number of years was referee in Pot Black. Dear old Sid Lee. His daughter Susan is still in touch with me.
Well, 7 extra points. And assuming the black won't go on its own spot, at least there's a decent safety in prospect.
8. Perrie Mans 8.
Oh, well, he means something there. That's a good one. 10 points in it. And there's the snooker. Well, I would say that's reasonable. Perrie certainly has a red into the yellow pocket, but it's not an easy one, particularly when the eyesight starts to deteriorate. Good try. Good put. So synonymous with racing. Incidentally, these stables here at Goodwood House were built way back in 1757. Extraordinary.
Well, that was a fortunate kiss. Looked as if Johnson was going to have a good chance, but for the second contact, it left him snookered. Perrie Mans still battling away, and that was one of his great characteristics when he was in his prime. He was a very tough competitor indeed. When he won the Masters in 1979, he won the whole event without making a 50 break.
Foul. Joe Johnson 4.
Joe Johnson puts him in again.
And he's hit that one too thick.
One.
Yes, well, the black will bring the cue ball nicely up for this last red.
Eight.
This last red and a black would leave Perrie Mans needing snookers.
9.
Although Joe Johnson is a former world champion, this is the first time that
18.
he's played in a pot black programme, because the 1986 series was the last to be recorded at Pebble Mill.
21.
Yes, I noticed on my notes, Clive, that Joe turned professional in 1979 after being in the final of the World Amateur in 1978.
30.
He's safely through, playing quite well.
36.
Yes, he's cleared up these last few balls very nicely, showing that he's still an extremely
43.
useful performer. So that 43 clearance puts Joe Johnson through at the expense of Perrie Mans.
The pressure was unbelievable, you know, because you know, we haven't played one-frame matches for a long, long time, and it was frightening, wasn't it? Well, I felt frightened anyway. Yeah.
No, I enjoyed it thoroughly, you know.
Yeah, I did as well.
11 years since he was back and now a one-frame defeat. Never mind. Joe's into the next round. Anything could happen in that one because it'll be the entry of the Australian, Eddie Charlton. And like the rest, Joe is enjoying
Crucible are going mad, thoroughly enjoying every moment of it. The most remarkable world final.
Yes, lovely man. Well, which famous face are we going to pull out of the record book tomorrow? I'll give you a clue. Twice in the 70s, he won Pot Black. Rack your brains and meet him tomorrow.
And my word, the final of the 1974 Pot Black Series. And it's in a fantastic climax to the Pot Black 1974 with the Birmingham player.
Now, up till then, I'd been sort of nothing really in the sense of the word as a snooker player, but overnight I became a little bit of an international star because I won it at my first attempt. I beat John Spencer in the final, and everybody thought I was world champion.